Here we go for part number 2 of Hahnemann's Life and Wanderings, 1781, 1796. Fashion and chemistry brought Hahnemann into contact with Hazeler's pharmacy in Dessau, where he became acquainted with the latter's stepdaughter, Henriette Küchler. She worked just in the shop, in the pharmacy, and Hahnemann came there. Hahnemann was interested in medical things and in chemistry, so then you know the pharmacists. And there was this beautiful young lady working in the shop, and Hahnemann was not blind, so he saw this lady, and they fell in love. It was in Dessau. They were engaged to be married, and at the end of the year 1781, Samuel accepted the post of medical officer in Gommern, near Magdeburg. That was in fact his first city where he worked as in his medical profession. He lived alone in Gommern for a year and a half. And in the St. Johanneskirche, I've been there in Dessau, he got married on the 17th of November 1782. He was 27 years old with Johanna Henriette Leopoldine Küchler, a young lady. She was by then 18 years old. And she passed away later, many years later, in 1830. That was in Köthen, where he lived by then. And later on I'll show you the picture of the certificate that she passed away. Their marriage would last for nearly 48 years, and they became parents of 11 children. Please think of Henriette Küchler, because during 48 years she followed Hahnemann in everything. All those moves to other cities in the wagons by that time, all those children in the diapers, hungry, peeing, needing a toilet, in the couches. Oh. She was a very loyal housewife for him. She saw it all, how he developed homeopathy, how angry he was by how patients were maltreated by doctors. Yeah. She saw his enjoyment when he found out what is the homeopathic principle, and she saw all his years of very hard working, day and night, in night with a candle and a goose pen. He wrote it by hand, all. She saw it all. A small building on the Salzstrasse, 73 in Gommern, was at the same time his residence and his practice. Salzstrasse means Salt Street. Later on, you will find him living in another Salz Street when it is in Dresden. Later it will come. And on the 16th of July 1784, Henriette was born here. So in Gommern, he got his first child. Since 1946, the nearby junction is called Hahnemannplatz. Again, a Hahnemannplatz. There are more in Germany. Here, Hahnemann also writes articles, and he translates scientific texts just as a living. Because when you have hardly patience, then you have to find out something else, which I myself did also. I've done many other things. Here you see the house, the place where the house was. Now you can get pizza there, but on the wall there is this plate, and you can read it. Here it is. He was born in Meissen. He passed away in Paris. Here was the house in which Samuel Hahnemann, the founder of homeopathy, as first doctor of the government in Gommern, worked. And he worked there 3 years, from December 1782 till Easter, Easter 1785, almost, no, 2 years and a half. They worked. It's the only thing what, yeah, there's another thing, because we have the Salzstraße, Salt Street, and the Samuel Hahnemann Platz. In common, there's nothing else, which reminds us of Hahnemann, nothing, just that this house, here it was. Yeah. This is not the house. And there's a plate. I've seen many plates like this on houses also. So people know, but it's not there anymore. Yeah. Samuel Hahnemann's Platz in the Salzstraße. You see, no traffic. Just very quiet villages, cities. When they moved to Dresden, it's not clear. They lived in Dresden from 75 until the end of 1889. So that's 4 years. And in 1788, a short while on a farm in Lockwitz. We did not went to all those places because, why? It's so much. It's so much. In Dresden, Hahnemann translated 5 big textbooks, and he wrote 9 articles about chemistry and medical science. Hahnemann knew a lot of chemistry. It's the time of Lavoisier, almost. And Lavoisier was also a chemist. And when Hahnemann would not have been a doctor, he would have been a very, very good chemist. On the 30th of November 1786, Friedrich is born, and in February 88, Wilhelmina. So now he has 3 children. Articles about chemistry and medical science, like about silver nitrate as a medicine in a dilution 1/2000. Here you see that he knows about poison, and then that you have to dilute it. By this time he knows nothing about homeopathy. The idea was not there yet, but you see that he knows that things can work even when they are poisonous, but then you have to dilute it. Silver nitrate, as I know it in my own language, is called helse steen, the stone of the devil. And when you have a wart on your hand, in all the times they put silver nitrate on it. It was touched by the stone of the hell. And I know that it was in our own house. When I was a small boy, my father had such a thing. We never used it, but it was in the house. A stone of the hell, silver nitrate, the dilution. About arsenic poisoning, the famous wine test, a method to detect poisonous lead acetate or lead sugar, at that time used as a sweetener of wine. And it was forbidden because it was poisonous. And Hahnemann found out a wine test which is used up till today, to detect if there is poisonous lead sugar, lead acetate in the wine. He was one of the first chemists who could find out something which you can use very, very good for detecting poison. Very good. He met Lavoisier in Hotel Bologna. The famous French chemist died in 1784. He was a little bit younger than Hahnemann, and he died under the guillotine in Paris after the Enlightenment was there. So that he met Lavoisier means that they could talk about their experience, their knowledge about chemistry, not about medical science, but it was about chemistry. Never forget it, that Hahnemann was a very good chemist. Hahnemann had friendly connections with Samuel Wagner, medical officer of health, and Hofraad Adelung, head of the Ducal Library. Wagner entrusted Hahnemann for 1 year with the supervision of all hospitals due to illness. Immediately after the death of Dr. Wagner, Samuel applied for this position unsuccessfully. Why unsuccessfully? Because people did not like him, because he was so strong about don't harm people. It seems that Hahnemann mostly focused on writing. Hale, which is an author, discovered far more than 2,200 pages, 5 big writings, among them one from English about the history of Abélard and Héloïse, buried in Père Lachaise. Later, Abélard was a monk, and Héloïse was his lover. And later on, you'll see them because they are also buried on Père Lachaise cemetery in Paris, and they are nowadays quite close to each other on that cemetery. I was there, and I'll show you later on the picture of the graves of Abélard and Héloïse. It's just takes some time to find out who was Abélard and Héloïse, and they loved each other very, very much. Oh, here they are. This is a picture which should be in number 5 of all the presentations. Here they are, very close. They were, of course, they were not allowed to love each other in the Roman Catholic Church, but they did, and now they are buried for ever and ever, so very close to each other, just like Hahnemann and Melanie, his second wife. Later on I tell you about that. They are also buried close together. Abélard was a medieval French theologian and philosopher, reckoned to the scholastics, and was already on young age someone with a big reputation in Paris. His correspondence with Héloïse was later to be known as one of the highlights in medieval literature. Héloïse and Abélard is one of history's most passionate and romantic true love stories. The 900-year-old love affair of the 12th century philosopher and theologian and his student Héloïse continues to inspire and move us. In the 12th century, in Paris, the intellectually gifted young Héloïse, the niece of the Notre Dame's canon Fulbert, strives for knowledge, truth, and the answer to the question of human existence. It soon becomes apparent that only one teacher in Paris can provide the education that she seeks. Though 20 years her senior, Abélard quickly becomes intrigued by Héloïse's uncommon wit and intelligence, for Héloïse is on par intellectually with Abélard. In fact, it's the same essence of energy which brought them together. When Héloïse becomes pregnant, they realize it's not safe for her to remain in Paris. They flee for Brittany, Abélard's place of birth. To protect the dignity of his fallen niece, Canon Fulbert arranges a secret marriage between Héloïse and Abélard. But shortly after the two lovers are wed, they discover Fulbert's true plot is to ruin Abélard and to keep Héloïse for himself. Always trouble. For her safety, Héloïse escapes to the convent of Argenteuil. But it is too late for Abélard, and he is brutally attacked in Paris. Very nice to read about relationships. As a result of this humiliating punishment, Abélard no longer considers himself capable of continuing as a teacher at Notre Dame in Paris, and he and Héloïse understand what they must do. Canon Bedel pleads with Abélard to not force such a fate upon Héloïse, but both Héloïse and Abélard agree that they must take holy orders as monk and nun. In a heartbreaking moment, Héloïse must give up her child, knowing that she will never see him again. Oh, always trouble. Perhaps it's not so interesting for homeopathy, but I found it out when you come across such a situation, then I read more about it, and I typed it. I typed the center. Through their famous correspondence of 20 years, their love continues to flourish in spite of their separation. After many years pass, in a chance meeting, Eloise and Abelard are briefly reunited at a ceremony in Paris, though they have been physically apart. Oh, sorry. All these years, at last, in the sight of the other, the former lovers realize that the love they share is the reason for human existence. That's it. Even today, the love they share is the reason for human existence. As the glorious ceremony begins, they triumphantly promise to remain forever one. They never met again, yet through their famous letters, their love endures. 600 years later, it was Josephine Bonaparte so moved by their story that she ordered that the remains of Abelard and Eloise be entombed together at Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris. To this day, lovers from all over the world visit the tomb where the remains of Eloise and Abelard rest eternally together. Perhaps you have never heard of these two people, but it's my joy to tell about it. Hahnemann's residence was in the Zielsgasse near the Frauenkirche. That's in Dresden. Zielsgasse, Ziels, we have a Dutch word zilt, and it means also salt. Yeah. So again, he lives in a salt street. It's a narrow street near the Frauenkirche. Frauenkirche is also Holy Mary's Church. Now it is in Dresden, and I was there. It took me some hours to find out what means Zielsgasse, because I did not know that word Ziels in old German language. But later on I found out, oh, Ziels is Salz, is salt. So I have to go to the Zielsgasse. Now I know where it is. And there it's near the Frauenkirche. So he worked as a physician, studied chemistry and medical science, translated books, and earned a living with writing. So he had to go from the Zielsgasse every day to the library in Dresden. From the Zielsgasse, he had his daily walk along the Frauenkirche, ladies' church, to the library at the other Elbe riverbank to study. Here you see Zielsgasse and the other Salt Street, and the other is an der Frauenkirche. It means close to the Frauenkirche. I found this corner house. Yeah. There you see it. Now we are in the Salzgasse. Now you see it. Salt Street is now in modern language. In Salt Street, it's a narrow street with a high buildings, and at the end of the street you see the Frauenkirche. And this is remarkable because I want to see this church myself. The famous Frauenkirche was built between 1726 and 1743. That was 12 years before Hahnemann was born. The church was ready, and it was destroyed during the bombing by the English of Dresden in February 1945. There was almost nothing. It was just rubbish. What was there? One big heap of rubbish. And the reconstruction of this church began in 1993 and was completed in 2005. Since then, the large self-supported dome of the Frauenkirche characterizes the skyline of Dresden, just as it did in Hahnemann's times. Now you see the church. Yeah. You see some black stones. All the stones, there are more. Here you also see what is black here also is old. So this part of the building of the church was still standing after the bombing. This was all gone. All was gone because it is new stone. But things which could be used were still used, because all the stones from the first building on had a mark. Every stone, every brick had a mark. So in the whole heap of rubbish was taken apart and categorized, put into it was all ordered, and as much as possible they used the old stones to rebuild the new church, and and I am sure that when Hahnemann left his house in the Zielsgasse, then he saw this church. He walked along the church, and you have to go into this direction, and there behind these buildings there is the Elbe, and at the other side of the Elbe there was the library. So every day he saw this church. I attended a ceremony in this church, and it is really a beautiful one. Whenever you come in Dresden, go there. And one of the streets of this square is the Zielsgasse, and you can find the place where Hahnemann walked. It is this all inspired me very much to come close to Hahnemann and also of his work. You know, nowadays there is much sophisticated homeopathy. I still consider myself as a Hahnemannian homeopath. Of course, I have my own accents, with also Kent, which has made this beautiful book. Here you see my first repertory from 1981, and it's I'll show you page. You see what we did. Yeah. I made notes on it, and this book is worn out completely. Everywhere I made
notes. Yeah.
Notes, and all the notes are now in synthesis. But without the repertory, I could not be a solid homeopath. I used the book every day. For a short time, they live in Lockwitz, and because he couldn't find a job, the family moves at the end of September 1789. By that time, it's turmoil in Paris to Leipzig, where after a few months, Amélie was born. You see, and remember, they go into a couch with all their belongings and Henriette and the children and all his books and all the things he had. In order to live more cheaply and at the same time to provide a better home in better air for his delicate children, Hahnemann moved after a year to the suburb of Stutteritz, 4 or 5 kilometers from the old town. It's also me. I moved many times. I think Hahnemann lived in 32 places, and I myself lived in, I think, 24 places. Principles of homeopathy. During the translation of is okay. Yeah, now it's okay. Principle of homeopathy. During the translation of Cullen's Materia Medica about Peruvian bark, Hahnemann took as an experiment for several days in 2090 4 grams of good china twice daily and discovered the principle of homeopathy. Principle of homeopathy. Peruvian bark, which is used as a remedy for intermittent fever, acts because it can produce symptoms similar to those of intermittent fever in healthy people. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Here you see Peruvian bark. I took this picture somewhere in a museum in Helsinki, because there I saw so nice Cinchona officinalis, or China, Peruvian bark, in a window, just in a window. I took this picture through a window glass. I saw it. I was in Finland for teaching. I was in Kenya, first time in Africa, in 2008. Did beautiful cases there. Later on, since 2010, every year, 1 or 2 months in Malawi, where I saw many hundreds of patients. Always working with classical homeopathy, using the scheme of from Bunninghausen and aphorism 153, almost that. I have. I'll show you. This is my Malawi book, and in the beginning of the Malawi book there is this. I'll show this card. And there you see it. This is from Bunninghausen's schema. It is about the patient, it's about everything to make a symptom complete. And it's always here in my book, because especially in Malawi, when you have to treat lots of patients, then there is a moment that becomes so tired that you cannot think anymore. I don't know which question do I have to put. And then when I have that feeling, then I take this, put it right in front of me and say, okay, what's the problem? Who are you? Where's the problem? When does it come? Are there concomitants? What are your modalities? And what was the causation? Why? When has this started? And then I'm back to the solid principle of homeopathy, the complete symptom. And when I have that, then I open the repertoire, I see the remedies, I put one or two central questions to a certain remedy, and I find out the remedy, I give the remedy. That's for me homeopathy, not sophisticated, just work as Hahnemann did, work as von Bunninghausen did, and then you are in the very, very center of the remedies and the patient. And then, by working in that way, you can do 25, 30, 40, 45. One day, 46 patients a day. Just do the core of homeopathy. Skip sophisticated homeopathy from the last discoveries of the great teachers. Just start learning the repertoire and from Bunninghausen and just start to work. Stuttritz Carolina is born in 1790 or 1791. Until summer in 1792, the family lives in or near Leipzig. In 1792, Hahnemann arrives at Gotha, hoping to get a contract as a physician. After the death of Dr. Buchner, the personal physician of Duke Ernst from Saxon-Coburg-Gotha, also this application for succession in Gotha fails. Many times he was sent away. Yet the Duke placed part of his hunting castle of Georgenthal at Hahnemann's disposal as a nursing home for mental patients, and there it starts. Here it is. I was there. And in this building, it was a kind of a castle, there was his first place as a mental doctor. The former hunting castle nowadays is in use as a nursing home for older people. It's called Haus im Schlosspark. House in the park of the
castle.
Actually, there was only one patient, the distinguished Klokkenbring, who suffered from syphilis and the problems around that. And there's a small part of the house is a museum, and here you see him in his madness. Here started ideas about the miasms, because there is an underdigging factor leading to our most serious diseases which we develop in our lifetime. And those underdigging problem is mentioned as a miasm by Hahnemann. It's the soil on which grows our illness. After Klokkenbring was cured, there were no more psychiatric patients, and Hahnemann was obliged to give up his institution in the summer of 1793. On the 29th of July, 1792, twins are born, from which Frederica lived, and a twin sister died shortly after birth. In the small museum Georgenthal, we discover the following texts. Hier wird Friederike Hahnemann geboren. Hahnemann, two of his children died. The first one is this, one part of the twins, and later on a boy died when a couch made an accident. Was on the way. 11 children, so 9 grew up. This is written about the birth of Frederike, 92. It's difficult to read even for me, but this is the certificate that Frederike is born. In that museum is also his medicine cabinet. These are just the remedies he used by that time. And again, a list of the many places. This also is a sheet of paper where Hahnemann lived in all those years. You can count them. He was born here 10th of April 75 and he passed away the 2nd of July 1843. And these are all the, now we are here somewhere. Yeah. Here. May or June 93, during the French Revolution, the first halt for 10 months was in Molsleben. You see, it's only almost a year that he's living somewhere. Hahnemann made preparations for the Apotheker's Lexicon and he started with the Friend of Health. It's just a dictionary he's making. Friend of Health. It's like a repertory. It's not a repertory, but something like a repertory. Friend of Health that you can find what to do. In 1794, his second son Ernst is born. On the journey to Piedmont, an accident happened with the stagecoach and they were obliged to stay for 8 days in Mühlhausen. In Göttingen, baby Ernst passes away, 3-month-old. Hahnemann meets Dr. Pfaff. The family lives a few months in Bad Piedmont, autumn 94, Braunschweig 95. Some sources mention the birth of the twins in this period. We are not completely sure. In 1796, they live in Wolfensbüttel for some months, and that's it. Now we have, you see, children are coming, and he has to move because of no work or because of arguments with people who do not like him. Okay, that's it. 3 are following. 3 presentations like this are following. And I'm very glad that he could tell you what is the core business for me doing homeopathy. And you see, I am very close to Hahnemann. I'm very close to von Bunninghouse. I'm very close to Kent. I consider myself to be a Hahnemannian homeopath. That's it.